All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Manaverse Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Traplin, and I have with me Jess Carrier today. Jess is the head of marketing and events at Noble Knight Games in Wisconsin, and we are going to dig into my favorite topic, which is marketing. We're going to discuss her experience jumping in as the head of marketing at Noble Knight, some of the trends we've been seeing over the past year, content creation, social media, all that good stuff. So let's get started. Thank you very much for being on the show, Jess.
Thank you for having me here. It's great to be here.
It's great that we connected. It took a couple of weeks to get this thing lined up, but I'm glad that we made it work, and I'm very excited to talk about some marketing.
Yeah, and I appreciate your patience working it out. It's been a really busy month for us, as a lot of people have experienced. It's been a crazy summer for everybody, and we've started a few new projects lately. One of my favorite pet projects is something that I've recently listened to you talk about, which was the content creation aspect of something that we've rolled out recently. And that's been taking up a lot of time, so thank you for your patience, but it's been a rewarding experience getting that content ready, so I'm glad to be able to share it with you now.
Absolutely. And content can be a lot of work. The content engine is like you said, it's a big project. It takes a lot of time if you want to get the ball rolling, but it's definitely worth it if you put the effort in. So it's interesting to hear. It'll be interesting to see where it goes, and maybe we'll explore some of that. So first off, what I usually like to do is kind of give people a little bit of a background on who they're listening to. So give us a little bit of the background story on the Noble Knight, on how it got started, what's going on with there, and then how you got into the position of head of marketing.
Absolutely. So Noble Knight Games, you already mentioned, we're based out of Wisconsin. We're just outside of Madison, Wisconsin. We're really lucky to be in Wisconsin, where there's this very vibrant game culture. So we had a little bit of an advantage in there. Everyone knows, D&D coming out of Wisconsin. So we have a lot of local connections with a lot of the creators from the historic days of gaming, when everything was just picking up with RPGs. So that's actually how Noble Knight got started. Our owner, back in 1997, had started a private collection, picking up D&D books, collecting them, started kind of selling them, then expanding the collection more, then selling those. Then it was a storage unit, then it was a warehouse, and now it's kind of grown organically over the years. So Noble Knight specializes in both the new products that are out there, the board games, war games, RPGs, card games, miniatures, but also specializes particularly in the things that are out of print, the things that are hard to find, the stuff that you won't find at your average local game store. So that's been a little bit of our niche, but as we've grown, we've been able to expand more and more into keeping up with the newest trends, the hottest products, and focusing on having what is now the largest selection of games in the world. So the reason we can do that is because we buy, sell, trade, which has been enormously successful for us, taking games that people aren't playing anymore and taking up space on their shelves, finding loving new homes for those games so they can continue to be enjoyed, and then putting cash in people's pockets to turn into the newer games or the different collectible old games that they want. So it's been a really different place that we come from. We do things a little bit differently, and we started kind of in the opposite direction that I think a lot of game stores start in, where you start as a friendly local game store and then gradually over the years you become an online source. We did exactly the opposite. So we started as an online and became a friendly local game store. So we're at heart both of those things, but the core part of our business has always been the online business. We were uniquely posed when the events of 2020 came around. A lot of people were understandably scrambling to get that online portal set up and figure out how to do the online aspect of the game selling. We were already there, but what we discovered is as the growth went along, there was a need in our business for someone to kind of be a little bit more hands-on directly with some of those aspects of marketing and social media that a small company doesn't usually allocate a team to doing. I'm sure most game stores, I'm sure most of you out there don't go into running a game store with a marketing degree. You don't go into it knowing everything about legal practices and rental laws and international vending expertise. You don't go into owning your game store with a focus on, I already know what I'm doing with marketing. What most people, including myself, discover is that you're in a game store that grows enough to be able to support that, and that it's really, really valuable to have someone. I hesitate to say the word babysitting, but someone needs to keep that really focused. And I've been really privileged listening to a lot of the stuff that you've put out recently and hearing a lot of the things that we've been lately focusing on there. It's really great to see. So I realized a lot of people, like myself, I came into working with Noble Knight actually in a different position. I started as the storefront manager for the new location. The business had grown over the years. There were several warehouses spread out, and the business moved to the Madison area to kind of consolidate, make a bigger warehouse, make everything more unified, and have a better friendly local game store presence with a huge gaming hall, with a bigger, better storefront. So I was doing that. And by default, some of that came when you're dealing with the events and the friendly local game store aspect. Of course, you have to be involved in social media. So by default, I started kind of getting my hands dirty in the social media aspect of what we were doing. As 2020 rolled around and things transitioned more to working at home, and my particular focus not having as much to do, we had the store was shut down, the events were shut down. So that gave me kind of an opportunity to start diving a little bit more into what we were doing with social media. And when I started working with, for example, our Instagram account, we had like 2 pictures up. They were old. We had like 40 followers on Instagram. Immediately after starting to pay just a little bit of attention to that, it grew exponentially without any paid advertisement at all on Instagram. We don't do paid followerships, and it's grown so incrementally that all you really have to do is pay a little attention to it. And now we're at about over 2,000 followers there. On Facebook, we're I think rolling around 14,000. So we're no Star City Games, but it's we've been growing it steadily. And so when that kind of started to show real results, I transitioned fully into being a part of the heading the marketing team. That was really not very dedicated. I wouldn't say dedicated. Everyone is dedicated to their job, but there was no specific job that was like, you are handling this aspect of marketing. And as we've grown that, then we started to realize, as you were saying, the opportunity that we had there to put out content of our own and make ourselves more known as a personality and more known as a brand. And working on that SEO cross traffic has really been great. And so we just started launching our gaming hall website to get some of that blog content out there. And that's been going really well. We've been definitely seeing a lot of redirects to the site from that. So I'm pleased to see it's already doing what we hoped it would do. So that's how I fell into it. It was not by being a marketing expert, but by doing a lot of research, having the opportunity, knowing the company, knowing our customers. And that's really been invaluable for me personally, the knowing our customers part. It's a huge thing that I'm sure everyone in the game store industry knows that it's really important to know your customers, especially for the friendly local game stores. So knowing what they're interested in, knowing what they want to see, knowing who they are, knowing their challenges, knowing the challenges that are presented to you by them, has really given me an opportunity to kind of work with the content that I think that they'll enjoy, and then also putting things out in front of those people that we hope that they will enjoy. So that's something I can always recommend to anybody is, listen to your customers, listen to what they want, listen to what they do, find out where they are. I've heard a couple people talk about how radio advertising was kind of hit or miss for some people. Some people say it's great. Some people say I never saw a single penny from it. That's hard to track because you can't put a finger on, when someone hears your name on the radio and then do they later, a month later make a purchase. You can't really watch that, but we found out what channels regionally people are listening to, like what, hey, your customers are in the store. What radio station would you like to hear playing in the store? Where do you listen? And then we reached out to a local radio show host who did a morning show who enjoyed games. We invited her to come out, play some games, see the store, get excited about who we are and what we do. And then instead of doing a radio ad in the traditional sense, we had her vocalize for us in the morning show about, hey, well, what are you looking forward to this weekend? Maybe you could pop down to Noble Knight Games, or hey, I was at home playing this great game with my family. I got it at Noble Knight Games. That worked incredibly well for us. And we had the storefront staff ask people when they were coming into the new store for the first time, they'll walk in and say, wow, it's my first time here. Great shop. Oh, great. Wonderful. How'd you hear about us? And we kept a very simple paper analog tracking sheet. Where did the customers say they heard about us? And we found a lot of people were saying, oh, I heard you on JJO, or, oh, I did a Google search. I heard about it because my friend Tom said that you guys were moving into town. So just knowing the basic trends of where people listen, what they do, where they're hanging out. I pounded the pavement first when we first started opening the store as well. I went to the local the comic book shops. I went to the theater just down the hill. Talked to them. Hey, we're your new neighbors up the hill. We're both in the entertainment industry. How would you like some flyers? We're just up there. Maybe you want to, maybe your employees might want to come up after shift or before shift. We just talked to the people nearby. We talked to the Chamber of Commerce. We got in all those places, and it really did make a huge difference. So not to discount the online aspect of everything you do, but there is something to be said for putting up flyers on campus and stopping by the comic book shops and seeing if they'll let you post something on the wall. There's a lot of opportunities out there that I think people start to think aren't viable anymore, and they really, really are. They just being active and people seeing your name might not turn into an immediate, oh, you see this flyer and then you go make a purchase, but they know who you are. And maybe they're not a gamer, but maybe their friend is. Maybe they've brought it up in conversation. Oh yeah, I saw that billboard for Noble Knight Games, or I was at the theater the other day and I saw something about you guys moving in. So it's been a wild ride. It's been really interesting learning a lot of these things that I certainly didn't go to school for. I was a liberal arts major, so marketing was not immediately up my alley, but it's been really rewarding to see how it can really grow something that I do deeply care about, which is the Noble Knight Game Store.
Absolutely, that's a one heck of a story, and you touched on so many different points. And I didn't want to interrupt, but yes, I agree. Yes, I definitely agree. Yeah, that's a really important point too. And just the one that near the end was the one you were talking about with basically market research, essentially kind of getting to know what your customer wants and getting to know what they think and how they talk and what they're interested in. That's the foundation for marketing, essentially, right? Because if you're just sort of putting stuff out there, it's very much hit or miss, because you don't really know what's going to work. You don't really know what's going to resonate unless you do that groundwork and you actually have those conversations with people. And that's one of the, I don't know how many store owners are putting in the work of actually having those conversations and documenting and trying to put it into a coherent system that you can actually use it for something later on. But that's definitely a really important point that I think you touched on, that a lot of people could benefit from just by doing that, just being very simple with just answering or asking those questions, and just kind of getting an idea of what they're looking for and what they're interested in, and then you can use that for everything that you do with your business.
Mm-hmm. Well, one place you can start is by talking to your employees. I mean, you might be a one or two person operation, so maybe it's you at the cash register all the time and you have that golden opportunity to talk to every single customer, but likely not. Likely your employees are the face that people are going to meet when they go to your store. So empowering your staff to ask those questions and be involved with that, or just ask them, hey, as staff, what radio stations do you listen to? What do you do when you leave work here? Where do you hang out? How did you find out about our store before I hired you? These are places where you can start very simply and expand further, and just invite a team meeting sometime to where are you hearing people finding out about us? Are they walking past the street and just saw a display in the storefront? Or were they finding out about us online or through their friends? And word of mouth is an incredibly powerful tool as well. There is no better advertising than knowing that someone spoke about you completely off the record with no incentive other than that they enjoy your services and want to share that with their friends and the people that they game with. I would rather have one person who's out there talking about us than have 5 ads running online that gain a customer or so. One unhappy customer will spend a lot of time kvetching about their unhappy experience, but happy customers are less likely to do so. But so when you find one that really is out there advocating for you, what did you do to make them that loyal customer that you can build on? And how did they get that happy? Was it because of your product? Was it because of your attitude? Was it because of your social media presence? And you mentioned in a previous podcast that I was listening to not too long ago, I think it was one about Star City Games, that there's an opportunity to turn around those unhappy customers. Oh no, that was in your review thing. There's opportunities to turn those customers around, and they can become some of your most loyal customers. But finding out what makes you and what people are resonating with you is just a fantastic way to get in people's mouths. We found, regarding your Star City post though, when it comes to content, and what I've seen on their site and I've noticed on our site as well, is keeping a rotation of the style of content you're putting out there that can hit different people differently is great. So when I look at Star City Games and I see often there's just a slew of memes. They're funny, they get great engagement, lots of likes, lots of shares. They're getting a little bit of brand recognition out of that, but they aren't getting site traffic from that. And neither do we, typically. You get a lot of likes, you get a lot of followers from the memes. So that's a great way to grow the audience, but what you really want in front of them is the product, right? So we've had good success by tailoring what we know that our audience likes to see, which is fun and funny gaming stuff that makes you laugh, that makes you smile, that gives us a personality. We're gamers too. We're having fun with you. We're in the entertainment business and we're here to entertain you, but we're also a business. So we rotate between content that's funny, content that's about us and what we do, and then about the products that we sell, so that we can, by dint of having that boost of the funny meme that everyone laughs at, you get some more followers, you get some more likes, you get some brand recognition. Then you follow that up by who we are, what we do. Maybe it's a store event, maybe it's a meet the staff, maybe it's just a silly moment from the office. And then followed later by, here's a new product, here's a new publisher, so that you can get that growth of the audience followed by them seeing what you have out there to purchase. That's worked really well for us as well. So it's a strategy that I can recommend, is rotating through some funnies with some serious content.
Absolutely. And I think, again, you touched on two really interesting ideas that I think we could explore a little bit too. The idea of the referral, the word of mouth being really important. Obviously, like when somebody genuinely and organically says, hey, this place is great, you should go check this out. I had a great experience there, you should go spend your money there. That, especially if the person is a friend or someone they trust, that is worth way more than almost any other recommendation, any other advertising that you can spend money on. Like, that's going to really move the needle, right? Mm-hmm. So the question would be, like, how do you systematize that, if you can, right? How do you get somebody from, where they start off, where they don't know who you are, they have no idea what you do, they become aware, they learn a little bit about what you offer, and then they, eventually become a customer, maybe once, they try it out, and then they become the return customer, where they're becoming a regular and so on. But they're still not quite at that point of like brand advocate, right? Mm-hmm. So like what kind of an experience do you have to give that person in order to get them to that point of saying, I'm going to tell my friends about that, right? And kind of thinking about the journey as a customer along that, that spectrum. Mm-hmm. I think in talking about that and thinking about that as the owner, as somebody who's trying to come up with a marketing plan for your own game store, I think that's a really important idea to kind of keep in mind. What stage are these people in? And then, how can you progress them? How can you improve their experience along that spectrum to the, to advance people to the point of, like ideally every customer who comes in your door has an awesome experience and loves your store and loves whatever you're doing, to the point where they go home and they hop online and they're like, hey man, did you check this out? Have you been to the store? That would be the best ideal marketing experience. If you could manage that would be great. Mm-hmm. So keeping that concept in mind is really important. And then what you were talking about with rotating content. The thing that kind of went into my mind at that point was the idea of the funnel. So when you have, again, it touches into the customer journey as well, right? So at the very top of the funnel, you have, awareness, basically. You're just kind of like, I'm putting stuff out to, let people know that this is kind of, we exist and we're here and you should, maybe you should follow us, right? It's interesting. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of go down to the middle of the funnel where it's like, okay, the person's now more aware of what you do and what you're offering, but now maybe they're just trying to like figure out what hobby they're more interested in, right? That's when you start really diving into the specifics. Whereas at the top, you're just saying, well, we offer tabletop games and we offer vintage products and whatever else. Like, it's kind of just increasing the awareness. Then as you progress down that funnel, you have different levels of content at different levels of awareness. Mm-hmm. So kind of like, I guess the example of Star City is kind of like the content that they make for the like hyper competitive Magic players, right? Those are the people who are they're into the strategies. They know all the cards. They don't need to be told what Magic is. They don't need to be educated on what the cards do or anything. They know that. They want to know the deep dive strategy, right? The tournament reports and that sort of thing. So they're hitting a different niche. They're hitting a different awareness level with those levels. But that doesn't mean that they also don't create content for other people, right? For other levels of gamer, right? If somebody's kind of just getting into Magic, there is still like the Commander playthroughs and the videos and that sorts of things to hit those more casual or less experienced demographics, right? And then creating content that kind of runs the gamut is a good way to kind of have a really wide net at the beginning that then funnels people down towards eventually making a purchase in your store. And with a proper plan, like what you were talking about, to kind of move them to the point of, like, the meme doesn't really do much, but it is an entry point. It is, at least like when they like your page, maybe they'll see the next thing that says, hey, you should check out this product, right? Exactly. It's not completely invaluable, or invaluable, that's not the word. It's not valuable. It does move things along, but you need to kind of do everything else as well. You can't just run your business on memes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've seen some people try, and I'm not sure maybe they have a strategy for memes that's better than my memes. I don't know. But I found that, like you said earlier about creating that customer experience that makes us worthy of being re-spoken about, small gestures can go such a long way. And working with those people who find you and love what you do and encouraging them to have positive things to say about you. I mean, maybe they run a Twitch stream. Maybe they have a gaming blog, or they have their gaming group. I've had tremendous success with the kind of creators and content providers out there who reach out to you and say, I'm already a customer. I love what you do. Would you be interested in working with us, and maybe drop a coupon code for my listeners? I would love to. There is nothing that makes me happier than working with someone on advertising who genuinely appreciates what you do, knows who you are, and is speaking from a place of genuine experience. That is, to me, you can kind of hear that when someone's talking about a place, whether I am being paid to advertise this company, or if they're talking about, I bought this thing from Noble Knight, here was my experience, I can't say enough about how great that was, and I hope you guys check it out, is a more genuine aspect that I always try to chase. That it's the best kind of advertising I could ever hope for, and it's so validating to see that rolling in more and more for us as we've dedicated more time to making our presence known and letting people know that, yeah, we sell online all over the world, but we're also a small business. We're friendly local game store people. We are gamers too. We care about you. I want you to get your game too. I want you to get a good price for it. I want you to be playing it. I want you to be out there growing the pie for everybody, right? The more gamers are out there, the more market there is for everybody. And to a certain sense, we are in competition with other game stores. That's absolutely true. But I prefer to not think about it that way. And we're privileged to have a very friendly working relationship with the other stores in our area. We're also not on a walking path. You cannot see our store from anywhere unless you know where it is, because we're a strange duck. We have the warehouse. We're not in your average, walking mall area. So it's really important to us that people think of us as a destination and as a place that's like almost like a hidden gem. Like, did you know the largest selection of games in the world is right here in town? It's right here in Wisconsin. Did you know this thing? And I want people to show up, be wowed, and walk away with a unique experience when they visit the store or when they go to our online portal, right? They should feel like blown away by the content that we have in terms of the spread of what we offer, what we have had in the past, what we're going to get in the future. And there's different ways that you can kind of curate that to the unique customer experience. Just a minor case in point, there was a new customer recently who reached out on Facebook. They saw this set of dice and they're a collector. They really want it. There's only one left. Could you please hold this for me for a couple days? We typically don't do that, but sure, I'll hold it for a couple of days. And then they happen to mention, hey, do you have any custom sided D6? I collect the custom D6 with the strange. Like, well, I actually, we have some of our sets for sale, the Noble Knight branded dice. And he's like, I don't really need a whole set. I was just wondering if I pointed him to a few that were for sale. And then I took a moment, I tracked down his order, and I put a couple of our NKG dice in it. And that is a customer that is a first-time customer who has already reached out to say, I've never had an experience like that before with any online vendor. No one has spoken to me like that, like I'm a real person. You took a moment to treat me like a human and like you care about me, and it's just a set of dice, but it meant a lot to me. And that person is going to talk about that. And then I've had similar experiences with people who then are like, well, as it turns out, I run this charity program that I'm promoting. Do you want to donate to it? I would love to. A charity that's run by a gamer, love it. I would be thrilled to donate some gift cards to that. There's so many ways you can get out like that, and in a real, in a ways that gives you a personality, that tells people about who you are and what you do without putting out a big post that says, we like charity, we do good stuff. You can let your actions speak there. Are you a friendly local game store? Are you welcoming to new people? Do you go the extra mile for customers, new or old? And being genuine about that and really following through on that has such an immeasurable gain. And I'm sure everybody already knows that a positive customer experience is invaluable, but there's a lot of different ways to do it. And you can't reach out to every single person and offer them a special deal, but you can make sure that they think of you also as a real human and as real gamers who care about them. And that will turn into dividends as it grows. You mentioned something in a previous cast as well about the tool that is the email, that is the newsletter. Mm-hmm. That has been absolutely one of our most powerful tools for literally decades. It's been a thing that this company grew on and never let go of, and it's really, really worked well for us. As you said, that allows you to really custom tailor what you want people to see, the voice that you want them to hear, and provide them a sampling of, maybe not everybody who reads the newsletter is into war games, or maybe they're not into CCGs. But having a smattering of all those things also raises their awareness of those are things that you do offer. Mm-hmm. And not every store is going to have that broad of a sweep. We do a lot of everything. Not everybody's going to do that. So you can also focus that on what you really want people to know about what you do and what you specialize in. So that you had touched on that in a previous conversation we had, and I really wanted to point out that while you said that the email marketing has become slightly less efficacious over time, that's perhaps true. I don't know about you, but my personal email inbox is absolutely swamped. I get probably 100
emails in my emails.
Yeah,
I'm never getting inbox zero.
Yeah, so not everyone is going to even see, even if they wanted to see the email that you send, they simply might not. So you can't just lean exclusively on that. But because we've been growing that list and growing that personality and growing those dedicated customers for literally decades, that tool has worked out really well for us and allows people to feel engaged with us as well. And we always welcome feedback. I want to reiterate that, always welcome feedback from customers. Even if you think the thing that they just told you about it was silly or stupid, keep that to yourself, but keep it in mind. What they took a moment to reach out to you and say that thing, it means it's important to them. It's probably important to at least someone else like them. Listening to them and following up on their input, even if it's a one-off. If someone says, hey, I would really love to see more of this thing in your newsletter. In the very next newsletter, if you put that thing in, maybe you never ever do again, but they're watching for it and they see it and they feel respected, they feel heard, and they feel valued because you valued them, you valued their input, and that loyalty will grow over time even if you never do that thing again. And maybe you'll find other people saying, that was great. It was great to see you focus on that.
The underlying questions that I think the listeners are probably asking and thinking when somebody emails you and says, hey, I was wondering about this, have you ever thought about this, or have you discussed this with anybody or something along those lines? If you're a store owner and someone says, hey, have you ever had this product in, or do you know about this game or something like that, chances are that one person is a tiny fraction of the number of people who are probably wondering that question, just aren't willing to put the energy into asking it. Mm-hmm. So if you answer that question and you say, yeah, I looked into it, here's my thoughts on this, or whatever the case may be, depending on the situation, you're probably reaching out to far more people than you'd know and connecting with them in kind of a way that gets into the conversation that's going on in their mind. It'd be almost like you're mind reading. By answering these questions, you are helping other people get to know your thoughts and allowing them to know what you think in your voice. And it's also benefiting the person directly who asked the question in the first place. So it's a good resource to just kind of keep in mind that if someone's asking you questions or making comments, or even if they're negative, right? Like when I was talking about the negative reviews, a negative experience, whether or not it's absurd or like you're completely the customer was entirely in the wrong in that case. He still had or he or she still had the experience in their own head that went very poorly. Like maybe there's something that you can learn from the interaction either way, even if it is just maybe we can avoid this happening in the future by making some slight adjustments. But if it's a genuine negative interaction, that's definitely something you want to pay attention to for sure, right? Make sure it doesn't happen again, whatever the situation may have been. You got to take steps to remedy that ideally. And like I'm pretty sure I made the point in the episode was that the people that have a genuine bad interaction with a business, if you reach out to that person as a human being and just genuinely say, I'm really, I care about the fact that this didn't go great for you because I want this to be a great experience for everybody. I would like to know how I can help. Here's my, personal cell phone. Here's my email. Let's talk for a few minutes and see what we can do to make this right. Something like that is a really big step in turning that person into like a good, maybe not like your best customer, but turning the experience around to the point where I've seen a lot of businesses do something like that, put that kind of a program in place where somebody reaches out to someone who's had that kind of a bad experience, if they leave a review online or whatever. And then the person follows it up with, I talked to this person, they reached out to me, we had a conversation, we figured out what the problem was. I've never had a business do that before. Usually, I leave a negative review because something bad happened and I just get total silence and I just never go back again. But because of the action of the person to try and fix the situation, that completely changed it reframed what happens. Other people see that as like, well, you care, right? Like you're not just a cold-hearted capitalist who just wants to make money. You actually genuinely care about the experience of your customers and what happens to them and what happens after they purchase their product and go home and all of that good stuff. And it all comes together to kind of creating a business that values humanity, that values people beyond just the transaction.
Yeah, I mean, we are in the people industry. We would be nowhere without the humans that play the games, without the humans that create the games and sell the games. And we're privileged as well. I mean, we're still a small company, but I mean, most friendly local game stores have under 10 employees. We have more than that. We have a few dozen. So we are able to have a team of customer service. We are able to have a team of people that are looking at marketing. We have a team of people that run the warehouse, a team of people that run the store. So we can spend the time as individuals following up on those experiences and reaching out to everybody who has a positive or negative experience and trying to turn that around and making sure to humanize ourselves. But not everybody has that. I mean, most people aren't going to have a customer service department at your store. You have employees, and they are the employees. They do all the employee things. So I understand that it's very tricky to allocate that kind of time to responding to every single customer on Facebook, to responding to every negative Yelp review. It's going to be nearly impossible sometimes to really allocate. You're busy. You're a business owner. You're a small business owner. You're a game store business owner. You've got a lot going on. You're running events. You're managing people as HR. You're doing your advertising. You're doing your research. You're dealing with your vendors. It's a lot to handle.
Cleaning the toilets.
Exactly. Yeah, you're the janitor. But if you can kind of just carve out maybe an hour a week to spend on that, and maybe you don't hit every single one of them, but you hit some of them, and maybe have a coupon code that you can follow up, after you've already resolved the situation. Have a coupon code that's for exactly those type of people, maybe. So you've got a coupon code maybe that you're giving out to a brand new customer, a first-time customer. You can see how well those coupon codes are getting used. You've got a coupon code that you're giving to people that you're trying to, for example, woo away from your eBay store. For example, we have an eBay store. Love that you're on eBay. Great that you're on eBay, but maybe let's put this coupon code postcard in your eBay box. Wouldn't you like to use that coupon on our actual website? Or you've got a coupon code for, hey, this person had a tough time with their order. We reached out, we resolved it, and then I followed that up with a coupon code for a conversion of an unhappy customer. You can watch how well those codes get used, how often they get used, how often they maybe get spread. If you got a coupon code for us and you give it to your friends to use too, beautiful. That's wonderful. Now we've had more of that. So that's something I can also, I know I'm leaning off direction here a little bit, but get coupon codes. get coupon codes out there that you can track and you can see how they get used. So when you start, so we sponsor, for example, a couple of different podcasts or shows in various levels of intensity, maybe ranging from just here's a game to you review that we'd appreciate it if you mentioned it came from Noble Knight Games, to here is a monthly payment, here is a discount coupon per month for you to spread to your users. You can see how successful that has or has not been. Then do a quarterly or a half-year review. How often are these codes getting used? Are they getting used almost daily? Are they getting used almost never? Maybe if they're getting used almost never, hey, it's been a really great run. We're going to start looking at, changing up platforms a little bit, maybe circle back to them in another year. You don't want to burn those podcasters and those friends of your store that are out there making content and using your name. But you also want to focus your efforts where they're getting use. So when you see that coupon code getting used a lot, it's working. You know that whatever platform you were spreading that code on is working really well for you. So you can do that by dropping them in places like Facebook groups where permitted. Make sure that you're doing that in a group that permits it. Mm-hmm. Spread it in your groups. Spread it, with the shows and the content creators you work with. Spread it on your own site. Spread it in your email. Spread it on a postcard you drop in a box. Take a nice little sticker. Get some stickers made. Put it in the box. Where's that sticker going to land? Who knows? But maybe someone's going to see it and recognize that logo, or ask, "Hey, where'd you get that?" There's so many of those little things that you can track or not track, but that you can tailor to an individual's experience and find out more about where they came from and what their path through your funnel has been like. You can look back on was this person who used that coupon code, had they never made a purchase ever before? Or were they someone who already knew about you? Are you hitting an audience that's fresh, or are you hitting people that you already had? And you want to make sure that those people you already have are happy and they want to have content that's for them, but also where are you underperforming, and can you reach out to spread more into that market? Maybe I'm a biased source on this, but one of the things that I find continually a little bit disheartening when I look at our metrics is the ratio of male to female. And I know from experience, there are a lot of female gamers out there, but are we reaching them? Are they our customers? Across the board in almost every game store I've ever talked to, the ratio of male to female purchasers is highly, highly in favor of the male purchaser. But that doesn't mean that women aren't out there gaming and buying games. So why is it that they aren't your customer? And what can we do as an industry and as individual stores to reach that market? Sure, you might want to focus on, all of my audience is male, so I want to tailor my audience to men. That's great. You're keeping that audience, but you have room for growth where you are not performing already. So it's important to me personally as a female gamer to also make sure that the ladies of the kingdom out there know that we are welcoming to you. We are here for you. You are not excluded as an audience, and we are not gatekeepers in any way. That's an excellent aspect, and I have actually seen growth, especially in our local market, of seeing a higher percentage of female purchasers and a higher percentage of female players coming to our events, just by making sure that we're not excluding that market intentionally or unintentionally. So where are you performing well? Where are you not performing well? Where can you see growth? What are your customers? And find out what they like, what they do, tailor to them, but also see where you maybe can expand.
You've basically got two ways of kind of growing the pie, right? You make it deeper, you make it wider, right? So the idea of who are you leaving outside of your pie, right? Who's not being able to partake? It is an important thing to kind of consider, and it's sometimes hard to see, right? It's hard to see the absence of something, whereas you can really see these people spend a lot of money, or this is my core audience, and they're my regulars that come into the shop on a regular basis. How do I get more people like them in order to spend more money with me, right? And how do I entice them to spend more of their free time and free funds at the store? That's going deep, right? But you don't see all of the people who aren't in your shop not spending your money. So it's hard to notice that. But it's a massive untapped market, obviously. The expanding into more of the mainstream, I kind of hesitate to use that term because it's not really the case anymore. It's changing quite a bit. Tabletop gaming is becoming much more of an accepted and common pastime for people of all sorts, of all shapes and sizes. But there's still a lot of work to do and a lot of opportunity out there for every game store to reach a larger audience, and that includes people in groups who are not necessarily commonly found in game stores. And up until this point, it has been, like you said, very male dominated.
Yeah.
So what kind of a strategy or what kind of an idea tactic could people do to put into place that would allow them to maybe be more inviting or enticing to the female population?
I've seen some demographics that seem to point towards that this kind of boom of female gamers and newer, younger gamers, they have a higher percentage of purchase on places like Amazon than they do in friendly local game stores. What I could talk for an hour about the reasons why that might be the case, but it remains the case that a lot of those newer gamers and untapped market gamers are purchasing through Amazon. And there's plenty of reasons why they purchase through Amazon. There's anonymity, they get it fast, they get it cheap. And we as friendly local game stores have to compete with that. How do you do that? What do you have that Amazon doesn't have? Well, for us, there's one benefit is we have some product that Amazon doesn't have because we have these rare, these collectible, these out-of-print things, but that's not most people's gig. And even for the things that aren't those old out-of-print collectible, the Gary Gygax signed modules, you can compete with Amazon and those fast market places slowly over time by giving people a reason to do it. And you're never going to be Amazon. You're never going to rank above them on the searches. You're never going to probably be able to compete with their pricing. But what you can do is be a place that people care about and people that people care about. You have something that Amazon doesn't have, which is that you are a friendly local game store. People, especially in our area, in Madison area, we care a lot about local business. It's just kind of part of our endemic culture is shop local, shop Wisconsin. So we have that aspect we can lean into. You have that aspect too. Amazon will never be able to talk to a customer about, hey, I enjoyed this game, what might you recommend next? Hey, I had trouble using this and that portal. I'm not sure what I should do here. Talking to that person is something Amazon will never do. They will not help you. They don't care about you personally, and you as a company can. So making sure that you give people a sense of that there is a benefit that you provide, not just in the events that you have, which is great and important. You want people to come to your events. You want people to play at your store. You want people to have fun with you. Make sure that they perceive that in everything that you do, that you're not this faceless corporate entity, that you're people, you're gamers. And that gives people a reason to wait that extra 2 days to get their game, or to spend the extra $2 on the game to support you and keeping you here as a resource for them. So making sure that they perceive that benefit, that value that you have that other places don't have, whether it's that you're competing with Amazon or the local Walmart, what do you have that they don't have? And I guarantee you, you do have something they don't. And you just have to find what that is and play to it, and make sure that you're giving people that experience. They're out there for the experience of the game, not for the faceless corporate entity of game. And that helps grow the market for everybody, for every local game store ever. And the more gamers are out there, the more games are being purchased, the more games get made, and that, as you said, grows the pie wider and deeper for everybody. So don't discount that immediate experience that someone has, whether it be the first time visit to your website, the first time visit to your store, the first time they reach out on Facebook. That give them that benefit of the doubt of what you can provide that the online stores of the big corporate entities can't ever give you.
Good answer. A good answer. That's what I was looking for. What can game store owners do? What can they put into place that really will allow them to connect with people in a way that allows them to compete with something like Amazon? Because, like you said, there's no way you're going to beat Amazon at their own game. It's impossible.
Yeah. I can also recommend we about 2 years ago we redesigned our website, and make sure your website is mobile friendly. Make absolutely sure that it is super mobile friendly. That was an issue we had. It's an issue we've worked on. It's an issue we will continue to improve the website as we go. Get homepage banners. They've worked extremely well. What are you trying to plug right now? What is the first thing that someone sees when they land on your store? Is it the same thing every time? Is it just your logo when they land there the first time? Or is it hey, this new event or this brand new product, or build some excitement about this upcoming thing. Having something fresh, having something engaging, showing people something that you want them to be interested in when they land on your page is a great tool. So we've had tremendous success with doing that, rotating homepage banners, which of course means you also have to pay attention to design. You have to have some graphic design work going on there, but you can also find a lot of those assets from the publishers that make these games, right? Sometimes they just have a banner already made that you could maybe tweak just a little bit, or you can spend a few minutes, on Photoshop getting something together.
Canva.
Yeah. So we are now to the place where we have a couple people that's our job. We're here to make those banners, and we're here to make those Facebook posts and keep things fresh. And that's going to be very challenging for a lot of local game store owners, but I can promise you it is worth it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I want to emphasize the mobile-friendly website point. Mobile people searching through the website or using the internet on their phone is now the majority. Like it was, a couple of years ago, it was not. Most people were still using their desktop, but the vast majority of people who are going to your website are going to be coming to it on the phone. So it better look nice and work functionally on that phone, or else it's going to be. I don't know if you've ever looked at a website on the desktop and have it appear the exact same way on the phone. You can't press the buttons. The links are too small. Like it just doesn't work. You got big thumbs and a tiny screen. It's got to work properly. So if you have a website, it needs to be mobile friendly, and that trend's not going away. More and more people are going to be using their phone to interact with your site, especially with e-commerce. And the good news is at least that most of the e-commerce platforms that people can use to build their website, that's kind of the default. Most themes, like Shopify or any of the other platforms that you can use to build like an e-commerce site, it's kind of built in. So you don't have to worry about it too much, but that is something that you need to consider, especially if your website's 5, 6, 7 years old now, and you haven't really done a whole lot to update it or really keep it fresh. That's something that you want to consider, because chances are most people are coming up to your site, they're Googling you and they're showing up on their phone and they're like, nope, and they bounce right off. And you've just lost a massive opportunity because you're scaring people away, right? It's just a bad experience. Exactly. And you have something like three seconds to really connect with somebody when they hit your homepage. So again, to emphasize the point of the banner, right? The above the fold, what do people see when they go to your website? What's the first thing that they see? Because if it's just a whole pile of links and a post from 2 years ago, that's probably not going to be very effective. But if you have your one big call to action right there on the screen when somebody clicks to your website and says, I'm really interested in promoting this new pre-release for a new upcoming set. That's what you want to emphasize. That's what you want people to come out for. You're trying to get into the WPN, you want to achieve premium or something like that. That's perfect real estate on your website. That's what you need to be taking advantage of. So I definitely like that point. 100% agree with that.
Yeah. One thing that was a little bit surprising to me that hasn't worked super great for us was Google Shopping. That has been fairly slow for us. That was the pay-per-click was a bit of a cost sink, and it's more dialed in now. We've focused that a little bit more, and now it's working better. But the Google Shopping platform just didn't do it for us. Now Google Ads, on the other hand, retargeting campaigns and lookalike search, that works fantastically. Of course, you have to focus on making sure you have good Google reviews, making sure you have good search placement, SEO. But for whatever reason, and maybe you can learn me a thing here sometime, but Google Shopping was the one thing of late that we didn't see as much of a turnaround on as we expected. And I'm curious as to why that is when Google is the number one organic turnout for people to our site. Why is it that if Google brings more people to our site than anywhere else, why Google Shopping didn't work tremendously well for us is something I'm fascinated to dive into at some point.
That would definitely be interesting to get some data on.
Yeah.
My impression is probably that people are not used to purchasing through that channel, whereas people are used to searching for the website, right? The Game Store near me, or whatever the search term usually is, whatever it happens to be, and then usually a good percentage of people will ignore the first 1 or 2 or 3 results because, those are ads. I don't want to look at the ads. I just want to look at the organic stuff because that's where the good stuff is, which is why SEO is so powerful. But they'll look for that. So they'll skip that top bar because that's not really what they're hoping for, because they know that that's a pitch, right? They want to go to the search results, which are not necessarily going to be trying to sell them something. They might just be looking for information. It could just be that the shopping placement ad is just being skipped over by the majority of people, and it's just not it's not the expected way of purchasing that Game Store customers are kind of used to. Right? They're not looking for that. They want to go to your website. They want to go through the checkout page and go through it in that way, rather than doing it on Google. At least that's my initial thoughts. It would be interesting to see exactly why that might be the case.
But ever since when we started, and this is a very recent development for us, by the way, having the Gaming Hall content site, which is we built that off of WordPress. We integrated it to our main site a little bit. We're providing cross links from the WordPress to our site and back and forth. We immediately saw, outside of the organic Google search results, that site is the number 1 conversion to our current site now. It's outperforming Facebook. It's outperforming Twitter. It's outperforming all of the social medias combined, actually. So that is basically finding itself as another site that people are Googling. And then that Google site leads to our real sales site. And it circles in this beautiful, exacerbating circle of growing itself. And it's already working extremely well. So I know you've touched on this before, but I can't say enough how well I think this is going to work for us, of having that content. And it serves so many purposes of just getting people to your site, establishing you as a reputable source, establishing you as a place with personality that therefore shows that you are someone that people could shop with instead of Amazon, because you're real people, you're real gamers. So there's just so many benefits to that, and I really hope to see that trend continue on our site. It's my baby too, a little bit. I want to see it succeed because I've sunk so many hours into it. But to that end, also, we because we're kind of new at doing that and we're still ramping up production, we're also interested in talking to people who might want to contribute and who might want to collaborate with us. We're friendly. I'm friendly. If you want to do some cross collaboration with us, maybe you've got an article you've written and you want to share. And I know in this sense, I'm talking to other game store owners, so maybe you don't want to, but maybe you've got something else going on. I don't know. If you want to do some link trading, you want to put an article on our new site, maybe we could do a little bit of vice versa. Reach out to us. I'm happy to talk to anyone in the industry anytime. You can reach out to me at marketing@nobleknight.com. And that's Noble Knight with a K. So marketing@nobleknight.com. Feel free to reach out. I would love to talk to any of you anytime. Swap stories, swap contacts, swap content. Happy to. So please don't hesitate.
I'll link that up in the show notes as well, so it's easier for people to find than remembering an email address on audio. But yes, content can be your greatest salesperson. It's always out there. It's always hyping up your stuff. It's always telling people all the good reasons why they should, maybe purchase a particular game or whatever, subject you're covering at the time. But it's a fantastic workhorse for so many things. So like you said, it gives your brand a voice. It gives people the opportunity to know you a little bit better as a writer, as a person, as a store owner, as an organization. And it also directly leads to conversions. Like you said, it's one of the best performing converting pieces of marketing, is that you can have somebody get educated on something that they might like. And then that can lead to the natural decision of wow, this game sounds really exciting. This sounds like it's right up my alley. How do I buy it? And then right at the end is well, here you go. This is where you can buy it right now, and we'll ship it to you, anywhere in the world. And whatever, if you've got all that lined up so that your system takes care of itself and you've got the e-commerce side kind of locked down, the content is a really great lead into that.
Yeah. And I hope it continues that trend. And we've also been, I've been really pleased to present that as well as a place where our employees can find a voice too. I want them to feel involved in the business. They want to feel involved in the business. They work hard. This is an industry that we all care about. So I love to get suggestions from the staff on hey, I saw this new product come in, or I'm excited about this new game. Would you like to tell me about it? Or maybe people would like to meet you and have you tell them about your favorite games. Now you've got an article about your employees. They've found their voice. It shows that we're proud of them. So they feel invested more in us because we're invested in them. We respect what they have to say. We value their ideas, and they can see that in action. They are gamers, and they know what they're interested in. So someone else is also interested in that. So we can build up our presence and also the respect within our organization for one another. It's really it's a great feeling when you reach out to someone who's maybe up on the chain in your business and say, I would really like to see this. Is that kind of a thing? Or maybe this would be funny. Is that a cool thing we could maybe do? And sometimes you just hear like, yeah, we'll look into that. And then nothing happens. You're like, well, I probably won't bring that up again. But when you see that, maybe you've presented a couple of different ideas and then later someone goes, hey, look, here's the article that we wrote about that. Thank you for the idea. I feel valued about that. Wow, this is me. Look at me here on this website. Mm-hmm. That's valuable too. Make sure that your employees are engaged and care about your business. Works hard. Nobody does it for free. No one would be there working for you if they weren't getting paid. So having those extra benefits to see the results of your ideas and your thoughts and your emotions play out in a way that is also valuable to the company is rewarding on just an emotional and on a business level. And it certainly makes the content creation task a little bit easier when you have a lot of people who are willing to do it and they're excited to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping more and more as people from our staff see that stuff going into action that we will actually get more of them writing their own pieces and giving us more and more ideas, and we can dial in on which ideas are kind of working best. And I'm just really excited to play with it and see where that goes. And I hope people enjoy it. I just want to lay out again that it's a tough business to start getting into marketing when it's something that you didn't train your whole life to get into, right? There's a lot of information to suss through and figure out what's going well and why suddenly something isn't working. We were doing, for example, case in point, Instagram. We're having a lot of fun with this Instagram. We were playing with all these hashtags, and then suddenly the impressions we were getting from hashtags just went to nil. It was gone. We would get hundreds of impressions from hashtags, and then suddenly nothing. So we had to spend some time digging into that. What happened? And we found this weird shadow information that if you use the same hashtags repeatedly in a series of posts, Instagram will start thinking maybe you're a bot, and they'll start crushing your impressions. So we were doing this thing, we would hashtag ourselves over and over, hashtag board game, hashtag RPG. When we do those in a series that were too close together, Instagram just shut our impressions down from hashtags. Then we also dug further into, are we getting a lot of impressions when we use these big hashtags, hashtag RPG, hashtag D&D. You'd think that you'd get a ton of hits off of that. But because they're used so much, your post is almost instantly buried in those hashtags of people who are browsing through those hashtags. So we started tailoring a little bit more again to some of the smaller but not inconsequential hashtags and rotating them more and making sure not to use the same hashtag 2 posts in a row. And immediately the hashtag impressions started going back up. So I never in my whole life had even heard that was a thing. No idea that was a thing that might happen to you. So it's a constant learning experience. Things are changing all the time with how the algorithms work, what platforms are the best trafficked and what are not. Yelp isn't as prevalent as it used to be. Google is more and more prevalent. So there's this constant rolling channel of things that you have to keep up on and learn. And if you don't have the time to dedicate a whole person to that, it's really beneficial to have folks like you out there, Tom, honestly, who are putting that information out for everybody and sharing it, and talk to the other game stores and talk to people who you like what they do and see what's working for them. And the more we're open in this industry with each other about what we do and how we do it and what works, long term, it's going to benefit all of us. So I'm just really grateful that there are folks out there like you that are sharing this kind of thing with one another, because you can't generally dedicate your whole game store ownership career to marketing and social media. That's not going to be viable for most. So focusing on what you can do and hearing some various ideas that haven't worked for people is just really excellent, and I thank you for it.
Well, I appreciate that. That's one of the things I'm trying to bring to the table is it's like you said, it's really hard to do everything well. It's pretty much impossible to do everything well. So it's important to learn from people who kind of like go deep on one direction and specialize in something and kind of glean what you can out of that and make it yours and apply it. If you're not good at accounting, you probably should outsource your accounting. If you're not good at marketing, you should probably outsource your marketing, or at least find somebody who can, match what you're looking for and bring them in so that they can help you take care of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I did want to touch on one thing that you mentioned before we wrap things up, because we're going on a little bit longer than we originally anticipated.
Sorry, I'm worried.
Oh, it's okay. No, I think that all the stuff we talked about was great. I feel like we could probably talk about marketing for another 2 odd hours, at least, and explore all the different strategies and topics and stuff. But the one thing that I wanted to touch on was when you mentioned Instagram and how like the hashtags and the shadow information, right? The shadow rules, the rules that they don't tell you about when you get onto the platform. The algorithm, almost nobody really knows how the algorithm functions. Even people like internal engineers in Facebook and the social media sites don't really know exactly how the algorithm functions. They don't know how it's going to play out. They put in the inputs, and then the output is like there's a million different variables that go into this calculation. So no one is able to say, okay, this is what's going to appear in your newsfeed. These posts, these are the ones that are going to hit. It just plays out. So every time they make a change, it changes. Like it changes drastically sometimes, right? And with social media sites, as important as they are for getting your brand out there, for connecting with customers and all of that social stuff that they're really built for, you don't control any of it, right? So like the one thing I believe I mentioned it on a past podcast at some point, but I really like Facebook for marketing. I don't like Facebook necessarily as maybe as like a company practice. I don't like the way that they've necessarily built their business.
Sure.
And that's because the original promise, like years ago when Facebook kind of started, opening its doors up to beyond just the universities and the schools, was that, hey, get page likes. Page likes, when somebody likes your page, that's how they'll see your stuff. So get page likes. Ask people to like your page. Pay for page likes. Promote your page that way, because that's how you get into someone's newsfeed. And then businesses spent some of them millions of dollars, like the major corporations spent millions of dollars buying these page likes to get likes on their page. And then Facebook said, oh, okay, well, now we've got so many people on the platform, we're going to have to kind of ratchet this down. And it's not just, oh, they like your page, they'll see your post. Now, like especially now, today, the percentage of people that like your page, that will see any given post is in the single digits. It's like 2 or 3% for the average post. Maybe for like a really good one, you might hit 10, 15. Like if it really gets a lot of comments and interaction and stuff like that, then Facebook will kind of reward you a little bit and send it to a tenth of the people that like your page. You don't control the traffic on social media. You don't control the traffic on Instagram, right? The algorithm changes all the time. It's the same thing with Google. Like as great as SEO is and as powerful as it can be for your business, the Google algorithm has changed repeatedly throughout the years. And every couple of years they refresh it to try and either stop spammers or stop the black hat tactics and people trying to take advantage of it. Mm-hmm. But it's not something that you can really do anything about. There's no real there's not a lot you can do about it. There's some things that you can do to mitigate your risk on that end. But the point that I was trying to make was that you need to own the traffic. And we mentioned the email a little while ago, mm-hmm. and how powerful the newsletter is and how great it is for connecting with people. Even if you only get a 10 to 20% open rate on your email list, that's still something that you have complete control over, right? Mm-hmm. As long as you're delivering good content and you're sending out an email that people actually want to read because it's interesting or it's funny or whatever, as long as you are doing that, you have direct access to your customers, to the people who want to hear from you, right? They've given you permission to send you information about the things that you do, so you should take advantage of it. Moving people from social media, from your website, from organic Google search results, and then getting them onto an email list where you have this direct connection with them is pretty much the most one of the most important things that you can do in terms of marketing, at least from my perspective. Like all the stuff that we talked about, getting to know your customer, understanding how they talk, and understanding how they think and what they're interested in, that's a really good basis. But not being able to communicate with them kind of like makes everything a moot point. So, yeah, I wish we could have. I would like to dive into email at some point. I would think that would be an episode on its own. It's just all the different things that you can do with email and what you can do to get more email signups and build your email list and all that good stuff. But I think that's one of the most important things that you can do with regards to your marketing.
One incentive that we've used for the newsletter that I just want to share that's been very effective for us, we do a drawing every month. 2 people win $50 gift certificates. So if you're subscribed and you're opening the email, you have a chance to win $50 of store credit every single month. We also offer a local email. So if you're a local and then you're getting the local newsletter as well, you actually have 3 chances every month to win $50. Are you going to win that $50? Most likely not. We have a lot of names. We have a big list, but we've allocated some of that specifically to the local audience, so that we say, hey, that the big newsletter is the big newsletter. We've got lots of customers everywhere, but we have one just for you because I want to make sure that one local every month gets a chance to win as well. So people are incentivized by things like the pop-up on our website. Sometimes they'll pop up, hey, would you like to register for the newsletter? We give out $100 of store credit every month to just this big newsletter. And then the local newsletter, you also have a chance to win there too if you're a local. Psst, psst, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That's an incentive, both monetary and kind of emotionally for the locals as well. But we're giving out all these opportunities to win. But if you want to actually win it, you do have to watch for our emails. You have to open them. You have to read them. And then you have to contact us and say, hey, I think I was that winner. Is this the winning address? Because we only put out a portion of the information to make sure that we're not, giving out people's contact information in our newsletter to, a few 100,000 people. But so then they've reached out to you, and that gives you another opportunity like, oh, hey, great, Carol, congratulations. So glad to see you won. I love giving out these prizes. Do you have an account with us already that I can add this store credit to? You don't? No problem. You can create one, or I can create one for you. I want to get you that store credit right away. You can use it instantly. Every time that someone wins, it's such a feel-good moment for them. And we're incentivizing people to sign up and listen to what we say by doing that. So it's a strategy I can recommend if you can do it. Offer an incentive. And the more often that you're opening and reading those emails, people we're using MailChimp, for example, you can see what the customer engagement level is. They have like a star rating. So if I weight the list a little bit towards the more active readers, so that if you are an active reader, you're an engaged customer of ours, you have a somewhat higher chance to get that winning draw, and I can reward people who are engaged, if that makes sense. So it's still a random number generator that I use to pick the winner, but it's the more engaged you are with us, the more we can reward you, and the more that rewards us. So it's worked for us.
I like it. I think that's a great incentive. I think that is something that like a lot of people teach, is that you have to offer something. Someone giving you their email as an exchange. It's like I said, it's permission to connect with them. And usually most people are like, I don't know if I want to necessarily give you my email, or my inbox is full enough. But if you say, hey, I'll give you this little token of appreciation, right? Even if it's just a chance of winning a gift card in the future, that's usually enough to get somebody to say, yeah, okay, that sounds like a good opportunity. I'm already interested. You just pushed me over the edge. Here's my email address. And again, the nice thing about that is it's store credit, right? It's not like a check or something you have to send these people. It's just, here's some store credit, so it's already kind of like offset by the margin of whatever they're buying. The value to them is higher than like technically the cost is to you as a business, which is a great way to do it. And it also it's limited, right? You're committed to $100 in store credit per month to have this constantly incentivizing people, whereas you don't have to necessarily connect it to like a coupon code, for example, where you say, oh, I'll give you a 10% off your particular purchase under $10 or whatever, or under $100, because
which is fine too.
That scales up to infinity, right? If you can,
yeah. It exactly. That's it does work, that given a $10 coupon or something as an incentive works. But as you said, that can become a much larger animal than you anticipated, than maybe you had a cage for. So that keeping a restrictive level on what you're offering. And if there's anything I've learned about gamers over the year, we love open a blind pack. That sense of could I win? Ooh, we love that. Ooh, we love that game. So make a game of it. You might win.
Gamifying, a whole other subject.
Yes,
on what you
indeed.
can do. It obviously, like, tons of overlap with the industry. So, yeah, okay. We could just keep talking, but I know you've got to get back to your life and your work, and I don't want to keep you too much longer. But I did want to end with one question, and then maybe give you another chance to let people know where they can find you. So usually, when I have somebody on the podcast, I normally ask them the same question. I ask most people the same question, and that is success. Success is a really nebulous term. It means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So my question is, what does success look like for you in terms of marketing for Noble Knight?
Do you mean for me personally, or in terms of the business as a whole? I guess they're in a lot of way of lines, but...
Sure, but let's go with both if there's a deviation.
Sure. Let me think about it. So for the company as a whole, the measure of success to me ranges everywhere from customer number growth and followership on our socials to the percentage of positive reviews, which we've seen over time, because we are committed to the customer service aspect and to being a reputable source and a reputable buyer, that those positive reviews grow themselves, and seeing that rate continue to only go upward is a good measure of success. But when it comes down to it, the measure of the success for the business as a whole is clearly going to be profit. Are we growing our profit, therefore able to expand, to buy more things, to offer more product to more people, who then grow the business more? So it's really growth focused to us, and it's not purely monetary. I know for a lot of people that's going to be the thing. How much am I able to pay myself monthly as the local business store owner? Some people are, you've been there, you've had a year where you couldn't cut yourself a paycheck, or you knew for 6 months that everything was going to go straight into the store, not into your pocket. So it's less about the corporate profits overall, and more about where we can get enough growth to sustain further growth. Can we then order more product, which means we need more warehouse space, which means we need more warehouse staff. So do we have enough sale happening to continue that trend of growth? And the sign of continued growth is a good sign of the health of the company. So even if a lot of that growth eats some of that profit, you're continuing to grow it. So to my mind, that's where the true measure of the success is the continued trend of growth, both of the number of staff, the number of sales, the number of the profit margin, the followership, the likes. It's all one big net that sees growth that hopefully requires an even bigger net. We have to expand our parking lot now. That's a good sign. We have, so our parking space was starting to get filled with just employees, and we don't want that. So everybody's got to leave the front parking lot open for customers. So then we're going to have to start, let's make sure there's room for them. Let's park on the street until we can expand parking. That's a sign to me that we're doing something right. We're growing the number of staff. We're growing the sales. We're growing the customers. Our events are still kind of getting back to where they used to be pre-COVID, but seeing new customers coming into the store with old customers just is so rewarding. And that's a little snippet that you can look at and say things are going well. So growth there for the company it is for me personally. I want to focus myself on more like the results of the things I in particular do. How well are they being received, and how beneficial are they long-term to the company? So my personal goals still lead towards that goal of company-wide growth. But they also are more targeted towards, what did I do last time? How did it perform? What can I do differently? What else can I learn? What else can I implement and involve the company with? And at what point is there a certain cap level at which you want to say, hey, should we stop? Should we scale back? No one wants to say we can't do that or that we shouldn't do that. Everyone wants to grow as big as they possibly can. But are you prepared for that growth? Mm-hmm. If you suddenly, just as a microcosm of it, if you plan this big magic event and you push it and you get this huge rush of people, and then you don't have enough chairs and you don't have enough judge assistants and you don't have enough snacks in the cooler and drinks to sell, and people are standing around outside in the hot sun, you've grown faster than you were able to accommodate, and now you've got unhappies. You've got people who had a bad experience standing outside waiting to get into this tournament. They never got in. This place sucks. So you have to be prepared for that and ready to catch that. So that's kind of where my goal is right now, is making sure that we have growth where we want it to grow, and that we can control that growth in a way that doesn't suddenly exceed what we are able to provide as we are still growing. So rapid growth has been wonderful for us in the last few years, but we also you have to make sure you stay ahead of that. So we have to have, yes, sustainable growth. You have to have someone, we've got operations manager, we've got the vice president, we've got, people in the offices, in the warehouse, everybody working really hard. So you got to grow it, and you got to stay with that growth and not just rest on we've always only had, these two people doing this job. Well, you better be ready, if you're seeing that growth, to add another person to that job, and make sure that your people are still dedicated to doing that job. So there's a whole picture of that to keep in mind, of as you grow, where are you growing and how are you growing, and at what point can you make sure to avoid empty growth. It seems that's such a strange thing to say, like careful about your growth, but careful about your growth.
Absolutely.
Be prepared for it and ready for it and ahead of it. And for a lot of people, that's going to be really difficult because you can't allocate resources to something that you haven't yet grown. So that's always going to be a challenge for everybody. So keep driving that growth, keep learning what you can, keep doing the research, keep talking to fantastic resources like Tom here. Do what you can, and be ready for that growth, and watch and learn from your own mistakes. Sometimes things you're going to do are going to work really, really well, sometimes not. And that it's emotionally difficult sometimes when you're like, I think I had this great idea and I worked on it and I put it out there and womp womp. Okay, well, back to the driver. I've learned something here, and it's important to keep that in perspective, that even something that worked for someone else might not work for you. It might not work for your business model or your personality or your team. So be ready to these corporate terms like pivot. Be ready to pivot. Yeah. Watch what you're doing and what works and what isn't working, and maybe something that's worked for you for years is suddenly not working as well anymore. Keeping your eyes on that is the kind of thing that I really want to focus on for my goals, is being as aware as possible about the continued aspect of what our customers want and see, how we're growing, and being in front of that change as it develops and evolves. Being mindful of that is hopefully what I am aiming towards as a personal goal.
Adapt and overcome, whenever necessary. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. I was going to ask you, do you have any parting words of wisdom, but you just laid out like 100 of them, so I think that's great.
Sorry. Yeah, I do have a tendency to go on, don't I? Sorry.
No problem. I think this was a very valuable conversation. I think people got a lot out of this. So let's just let them know where they can connect with you again. How do people reach out to you? What can they do to find out more about Noble Knight and what you're doing, and all that stuff?
Absolutely. So again, we're Noble Knight Games, and we're based just outside of Madison, Wisconsin. You can find us online at www.nobleknight.com. That's Knight with a K, K-N-I-G-H-T. You can also reach out to me personally, marketing@nobleknight.com. We welcome you to visit our content site and give any feedback you have there, as that's still a new platform for us, and that's play.nobleknight.com. You can find that also on the button of Gaming Hall on our nobleknight.com website. So I would welcome any of you to reach out, give feedback, give ideas, ask questions. I'm a friendly resource, and I'm sure you are too, and I'm certain that there are things we can learn from each other. So don't hesitate, and check us out anytime. We'd love to speak with you. We're growing the pie, all of us.
I think it's a perfect point to wrap things up. So thank you very much for coming on the show. I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.